I was a hack, running around with noob tubes and just annoying the crap out of the better players, I think.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on this very special afternoon. My name is Paddy, and to the left of me is Ambie, and we'll be your host for the pilot episode of the Scotch Student Voice podcast, a Scotch College student-led initiative. So on this very special day, we got quite the guest to start off the series. Sitting across from me and Ambie right now is current Fremantle Docker and Old Scotch Collegian, Bailey Banfield. How are you doing today, Bailey?
Good guys, thanks for having me. Yeah, going pretty well today.
Yeah, good to hear. So obviously the AFL season just wrapped up, or the 2021 season rather. So how have you been throughout the off season?
Yeah, I've been really good. It's always nice to get a bit of a break, and during the last couple of seasons you probably haven't had that chance to get as much time off during the season when we've been in hubs and travelling for a couple of weeks at a time. So it's nice to decompress and just have some time to ourselves.
Yeah, I hadn't really taken that into account, but COVID's just been all over the shop for the past few AFL seasons. So, do you have any family across Australia that you haven't been able to see recently, or are you fairly local to Perth?
No, fairly local to Perth. I've got family up in Broome, so they've sort of been stuck up there a little bit and haven't been able to come down to Perth as much. So obviously I can't really travel up to Broome during the season, but normally they would come down a bit more and watch a few more games. But with COVID and whatever else, it's been a lot harder. So it was really nice to get back up to Broome this off season and sort of see everyone again.
So I haven't really looked into this, sorry, but I would be correct in assuming you're from Broome, family based in Broome.
Yeah, born and bred, and I was actually a boarder for the first couple of years at Scotch.
All right.
Transitioning to a day boy, what?
Yeah, year 10 switched over to being a day boy.
Do you like the boarding system?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. Year 8, sort of just, you're all in that little house. There was 32 of us, I think.
Running amok.
Running amok, playing pool, table tennis all day. Locked up in that computer room playing COD with 30 blokes. There was definitely worse places to be.
You're just a bit off topic, but how were you at COD? No
good.
Yeah.
No good. I was a hack, running around with noob tubes and just annoying the crap out of the better players, I think.
That's great.
Good to hear. So obviously you came to Scotch year 8. I assume you played footy before then, up in Broome. Where did you first find your passion for the game?
I've always played footy. I was kick in Broome, played for the Broome Bulls up there. Dad was a mad keen footy nut, so I sort of got that from him. Always out having a kick with him and running around, and just always loved footy.
And I'm right in saying that your family runs the Willie Creek Pearls?
Yep. So that's our family business. My dad, grandma and uncle started that about 30 years ago. So still going strong. Had a couple of little hiccups with COVID, but going strong at the moment. And tourist season's pumping up in Broome, which is always good.
Just went up there recently. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful this time of year. Well, it's starting to get hot now, but a couple months ago it's pretty beautiful.
Yeah, that's good. So you mentioned COVID. Obviously, there's been a lot of information about the bubble that players went into. Obviously, a lot of negatives coming out of it. But what do you think was like a positive that came out of that experience?
Well, I think a lot of the negatives sort of came out, and there's blokes with families and that sort of thing, missing kids' school and kids' stuff going on. But as a footy club, we probably didn't have as many. We've only got 2 or 3 blokes with kids. We're a pretty young group, so like we were sort of going away, and you're in a hotel for 5 or 6 weeks just with a bunch of your best mates, which was pretty fun. And it was almost like going back to boarding, but you've got your own room and your own bed, which was nice. Just going away and sort of getting to know everyone a lot better, I think. Especially last year with new coach JL coming in, that sort of sped up the process, I think, of coming closer as a group and getting to know him and getting to know what he wanted as well. A lot faster than it probably would have happened otherwise.
So also, you've mentioned new coach coming in. So in your career, you've played under 2 different coaches for 2 different years. The external perception is that Ross Lyon and Justin Longmuir have very different leadership styles and methods of getting the best out of their players. How would you describe those differences?
Yeah, definitely very different leaders and different coaches, and the distinction, I think, it's been really interesting sort of looking at them and the way they go about it. And they both, Ross has obviously had a lot of success, and I think JL is going to have a lot of success going forward. So Ross is a lot more direct, and he's a lot firmer with his feedback, and I guess he's come from this place where he's had a lot of success, and he knows what it takes to succeed as a coach, and knows what to demand of the playing group to get to that point as well. Whereas JL's a lot more, I guess, a bit more softly spoken, and it's hard to compare them because they are very different coaches, and both have had a massive impact on my career, obviously, and I guess different things work for different people, and they go about it very differently.
Not trying to offend anyone in the house today, but I don't know what your views are on this, but I'm actually a Richmond fan, and Ambie over here is a Collingwood fan. But I'm definitely, in the scheme of the West Coast, I'm definitely more of a Dockers fan than an Eagles fan.
Beautiful. Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
There's a very promising young core in Fremantle right now. I know you got guys like Sarong, Frederick, Brayshaw, yourself. Are you excited to be playing in the purple and white for the next few years, hopefully?
Yeah, definitely. We've got like some of the young boys probably going back to my draft year and the year before with, and then onwards, there's a lot of young blokes coming through, and as we get more experience and play more footy together, you just get more cohesive as a group, and you learn how each other plays, and it probably takes 40 to 50 games of AFL footy as well to really understand what's required at that level consistently, which has been our issue, doing it consistently. And it sort of takes those 30, 40, 50 games, I think. You can have good games and good patches in those early days, but being able to back it up week after week, that's where the real challenge comes in, and that's sort of where we've fallen down in the past. So as we get more games together as a group, and everyone keeps coming along and developing and learning what it takes to be an AFL footballer, and an effective one, I think we're just going to keep improving, and hopefully that trend continues.
So I'm assuming there's quite a strong chemistry in the locker rooms between you guys all as a team, because I think it's also shown in the field in the latter half of last season. I just enjoyed watching the Dockers. And do you want to talk about that for a bit? Or?
Yeah, well, I think it comes back to there's a lot of young boys and sort of in similar stages of lives, and we all get on really well, and a lot of similarities of the way we approach footy, but the way we look at life as well. So which always helps sort of that team building, and we hang out outside of footy and that sort of thing as well, which I guess that shows up on field, I guess, with the chemistry, and you see Andy Brayshaw and Shawnee Darcy doing their handshake together and strutting around, celebrating goals and that sort of thing, and I guess that's where that comes out on the field.
Yeah, that's good. So obviously you mentioned it takes around 30, 40, 50 games to find your feet as a team. Individually, you've played 38 games, and I know you strung 5 together at the end of last season. Had a great game out at the Derby, by the way, as well. How do you think you're heading into the next season coming up?
Yeah, I set myself for a big year last year, and then sort of got derailed with, I did my syndesmosis in the same ankle twice, 2 separate occasions at the start of the year and then halfway through the year, and then strung 3 or 4 together at the back end of the year. Then against Richmond, your boys had went to sleep on the field, which wasn't great. Had a fairly significant concussion, which set me back for another week, and then sort of came back in after that. So I sort of had set myself for a big year, and then it didn't really pan out that way. So I'm hoping that this year's, or next season rather, is the one that I can sort of cement my spot in the side and start adding to those games, and really play some consistently good footy, and hopefully I've figured out what it takes now to succeed at AFL level.
It's nothing worse than injury. I mean, if you just look back in many previous years, not just in AFL, universally, like the trajectory of many different leagues could have been different just to injuries. Do you make a conservative effort to preserve your body off the field and on the field? Yeah,
definitely. Recovery is a massive focus for us, because, like you said, injury, it's an unavoidable fact of life in a team environment, there's 40 blokes, people are going to get injured. We play a contact physical sport, but trying to minimise that as much as possible is definitely important. And I've been pretty lucky. Like my last major injury before this year was I broke my wrist in year 12 against Hale. We were down by 10 goals in the last quarter, and I broke my wrist, which made it a lot better.
Cherry on the top.
Yeah, exactly. And that was round one, and we thought we were a chance to win the cup that year, and then we're losing by 10 goals, and I snapped my wrist. But then, so this year was really the first year that I've had to deal with some injury setbacks, which was a definite adjustment and quite challenging. But you learn from it, and you get stronger, and you get better.
So you talk about first footy at Scotch, obviously. He says you've got football colours, so obviously played the majority of that season after the wrist injury, I'm assuming?
Yeah. So I played all of year 11 and then half of year 12 in the first year.
Sure, that's good. Position, how'd you, in comparison to your playing back then and playing now, how have you changed as a player?
I think I've got a lot more of an idea about what goes into it mentally. So at AFL level, there's vision, there's behind the goals, there's the sort of the broadcast view that you see during games, and there's behind the goals on both sides, and then sort of like a broader view as well. So there's really nowhere to hide. You've got a GPS on your back that knows where you are on the field at all times, and the coaches can always pull up the behind the goals vision and go, this is where you're standing, you should be here, sort of thing. Yeah. So there's always that mental side of it. What am I meant to be doing right now? What's my role to play for the team at this point in time? We're in defence. Where should I be? What should I be doing? We're moving the ball inside 50. What am I meant to be doing? Where should I be? What am I meant to be doing? So it's that mental side that you don't really even think of when you're younger. You're just running around chasing the footy sort of thing. And that was probably the biggest habit that I had to break in my first year in the AFL, was you can't just be watching the footy and then running towards it every time, because that doesn't work at AFL level. You need to play to the system, and you need to play within the system to give the team the best chance to succeed.
Being in the PSA, could you tell us what your favourite matchup was with which school in each of your footy seasons? Because I think for us, it's definitely in our year group, probably like Aquinas right now, maybe a big Christchurch. But we'll go on back in 2015, 2016. How was it for you? Do you have any big competitors?
We used to always belt Christchurch, which was good because you knew that the game wasn't going to be that tough because they were fairly average. Yeah. I think they only won 1 or 2 games all the way through from year 8 onwards. But we always had really close games against Wesley. I think they were like sort of on a similar. Yeah, we had a game down at the Memo. They had a kick after the siren, but we were 7 points up. They had a kick in the last 30 seconds or something, kick the goal up. So we're up by a point. The ball goes back to the centre square, ball it up, siren goes. So we all celebrate, high fives everywhere, go into the change room, sing the song. Then we're in the showers after the game, and the boundary umpire, knocks on the door and sticks his head in and says, "Boys, that was actually a draw. The scoreboard was wrong. Aww. The actual score was 68 all or whatever it was." And we're all just standing in the showers going, "What the heck's going on? That's rubbish. That's absolute garbage," I reckon. And so I still count that as a win for us because we sung the song. But real close games. That was one of the last games in year 12 actually.
Poor form from the umpire.
Yeah, and whoever was running the scoreboard, the poor year 8 kid up there probably felt pretty bad that he got it wrong. Yeah.
But you talked about playing on Memo. Do you have quite a connection to that oval? Because I know many boys go through that in their sporting career, but it's just quite a big part about Scotch and the pride we have when we kick a footy or, bowl a cricket ball. Just, do you have any special connections to Memo?
Yeah, I love playing on the Memo. It's always a great oval, and probably my best memory from the Memo, I actually didn't play. I was in year 10 and there was a big game there, Scotch versus Hale, so this was 2013. And it was pretty much the grand final. It was the second last game of the season. They both had 1 loss for the year, and so we played our game away at Hale, got straight on the bus, drove back to the Memo. It was like halfway through the third quarter or half time, something like that. got out of the bus, the whole team, and there was literally like 4,000 people at the Memo watching this grand final. So like all the way around was packed. The Gooch was obviously packed, and so we got there. Obviously, just started barracking, and it was a really close game. And then in the last 5 minutes, Scotch kicked 2 or 3 goals to clear out, and Bevan Bennell had a shot after the siren. And as he was going in to take his kick, the siren went, and everyone sort of rushed onto the field, and he's still kicked it as people are running on the field. And there's like this awesome photo of it, I'm pretty sure, of him celebrating the goal and everyone rushing the field behind him. And we did a massive haka in the middle of the Memo, and everyone was just beside himself, because I think that was the first time we'd won the Alco in a few years. So that was an awesome experience.
Yeah, it's fairly similar with the Scotch Hale game at the latter half of the season this year, which was deciding if they were the sole winners of the Alco or either outright winners, or if they had to share the trophy. And it was a tug of war, but then we ended up coming out on top. I wasn't playing first, but being there was quite a great experience, watching all the boys rush onto the oval at the end.
Just that excitement, and just like the whole school sort of behind that team, and especially having it at home at the Memo, and the whole stands are packed and everything around as well. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, you actually weren't just a footballer though. You played a bit of first tennis as well. So me and Ambie were cooking up this question a few periods ago.
Yeah, we were.
Out of the Freo locker room, who's got the best tennis rally against you?
Oh, Fifey reckons he's good, but he's not. He played first for Aquinas, and he's not as good as he thinks he is. Dave Hale, so one of our old coaches, he's like 200 centimetres. He won 3 flags for Hawthorn as their ruckman. Has a booming serve. So in the Gold Coast last year on our hubs, there was tennis courts at the hotel, so we had a couple of games, and he beat me both times, I think. Just couldn't get his serve back. It was ridiculous. But I reckon I've got all the boys covered.
So aside from him, you'd say you're the single best tennis player at the Freo Dockers.
Yeah, and fairly comfortably, I reckon too.
Fairly comfortably, really?
Yeah.
So on top of that, obviously first tennis at Scotch, you were also the vice captain of operations, I believe. How did that role help prepare you for what was later to come in your life?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Probably the biggest one is speaking at assembly. Like, I remember sitting there in year 8 thinking, there's no way that I'm going to put my hand up to be any of the captains of school, whatever, because I just don't want to speak in front of assembly. Like, there's 1,200, 1,500, 1,000 people, whatever it is, standing there looking at you, and like I just remember thinking, no, that's the worst thing in the world. Why do you want to do that? Like, there's no way I want to be up there speaking. And then by the time year 12 rolled around, I got a bit more confidence, and still was like nervous as anything speaking in front of that sort of crowd. And like the DC, when it's all packed, is pretty intimidating, I think. But then I did one speech with my best mate, Mac, who was vice captain of service. Did a speech together to the school, and did it without notes. So like had memorised it, and was genuinely packing myself. Like my legs, like my hands were shaking. Like was just ridiculously nervous, and got through it. And after that, it was like, oh, well, if I can do that and like sort of stand up in front of the whole assembly and speak, then public speaking's not as, like, anything else didn't seem as hard if I had my notes or that sort of thing, or if it was a smaller crowd or whatever. Didn't seem anywhere near as scary, because I reckon that's about as scary as it gets, standing up there. And I'd practice it in the mirror like thousands of times, and I think that held me in good stead, because it's sort of all a blur actually speaking, but that was super nerve-wracking experience, but definitely something that I compare public speaking to now, and I'm like, well, if I did that, I can do whatever it is coming up.
I mean, besides from footy, it's after doing a bit of research, me and Ambie found that your academics have warranted you quite the ability to take a career off the field as well. Was there a certain area of interest for you that wasn't directly related to footy that you potentially considered studying and having a career in?
So I was halfway through my undergrad in commerce at UWA when I did get drafted. So then transitioned to that part-time and finished that midway through last year. So sort of have that under my belt, which is always good. Gives you a lot of options as to what you want to do after footy. In terms of like a particular area of interest, I think for me it's really sustainability and the environment and looking after our natural world is something that I'm really passionate about. Just sort of using my platform as a footballer as well to try to educate and I guess start conversations amongst people, and because I think it's a growing area, and it's an area that in even 2 or 3 years time we're going to look back and go, I can't believe we used to do it this way, and it's going to be something that moving forward is a given, I think. So, but if we can accelerate being environmentally conscious and bringing sustainability into our decision making process, I think we're already starting to see it now. It's happening more and more, but if we can sort of accelerate that and keep that happening, hopefully it's something that we'll be able to look after this world, and I guess provide all the experiences and the enjoyment that like growing up in Broome, country town. I was outside all my childhood, and I really want that for my kids and for their kids as well, to be able to experience that without having to worry about 50-degree heat or bushfires or flooding or drought or whatever the consequences of climate change are. I really want them to be able to experience that and still be able to pass that on to their children as well.
Yeah, it's great. So I think we're nearing the end of this episode. I think we're going to end it a bit more loosely. I've got a question that I've set up for you, and Ambie's got a question. I got
a final question.
I'll deliver mine now. So
yeah, you go first.
I think it's quite well requited here. In the entire AFL cohort, who do you reckon has the best trim?
Not Bailey Smith.
Oh yeah, no, the stereotypical.
Not a fan?
Nah, just the mullet. The mullet doesn't do it for me. I know it does for some people, but not for me. I think Andy Brayshaw's got something. He reckons he's brought it over to Perth, so it's like the short sides while leaving sort of that top bit intact. So he reckons he's brought that to Perth. So I'll give him that one.
Well, I was leaning more towards Luke Jackson. I think that's a well executed mullet, but I think your professional input's a bit better, honestly. But I'm gonna pass it over to Ambie now.
Yeah, right. So I got one final question. I don't really know if you're allowed to answer this, but round 20, retro round, Guernsey, yay or nay?
Guernsey, I loved it. It was awesome.
You loved it?
Yeah, I only got to wear it for a quarter before I got knocked out, but yeah, no, I really rated it. Awesome Guernsey. I think the fans all really loved it as well, so that throwback. Hopefully we can wear it a bit more going forward.
Yeah, right. Good to hear. With that being said, though, I think we need to wrap it up. But a massive thank you for coming in today. Obviously, our pilot episode, really great to get a renowned guest to kick us off. And for those listening, stay tuned because we've got a lot more to come. But yeah, best of luck with your 22 season, and hopefully you can have less injuries and keep things rolling.
Thanks, boys. Cheers.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Easy. Thank you.